Hello everyone. In this video, I would like to talk about the final exam and how to review your final exam for final exam, okay? So first of all, I have created a folder in the Blackboard called final exam. And then the final exam will be uploaded at the beginning and in the morning of May the 13th. So I believe it's Wednesday. So on Wednesday of that final exam week, and I will upload the exam at 8 a.m. and everybody could download the exam the morning, and then you could start to work on it whenever you want. So technically, the final exam is designed for a 2-hour workload. So it should not take you a really long time. So you should have a couple hours to finish that. And then I gave you the whole day. So the deadline is the midnight, the Wednesday at midnight. So I gave you the whole day just in case you have multiple exams to do in the same day, or you have to work on final exam for other classes. And I set the date according to the academic calendar. So I believe everybody know how to check academic calendar from AHEC website. So you could find your final exam schedule for every class. So for our class, then I have to set it to be the Wednesday, May the 13th, because our class is assigned to be that day, okay? So the final exam of our class is assigned to be that day. So that's why I have to use that day. So I mean, I really want to give you more time, but this is the hard deadline, okay? And according to the academic calendar, then I cannot give you the final exam at another day. So you should, and technically speaking, the final exam I designed only need a couple hours. So I give you the whole day, so there will be no excuse for any reason of asking for extension, okay? And make sure you don't want to start to work on the exam at 8 p.m. or 10 p.m. because I told you this only costs 2 hours, and then you start to work on it at 10 p.m. And if you want to submit your final exam late, that will be not accepted for no reason, okay? There's no excuse for everyone. So you really want to start early. Besides, also you need to leave some time for yourself. Make sure you could convert your file to a proper format. For example, if you print out the final exam and write down your answer on it, and you really want to scan it in and generate one file, Word document or PDF document. So don't submit your final exam in quite a few different files, okay? I don't want to emphasize this again. All our students, you are not the first year, you are college students. You should know how to generate one file, right? So some of you use touchscreen laptop or tablet, and then you could write your answer in the electronic file and send that back to a Blackboard. And some of you, most of you may want to print it out and write on it and then scan it back. So scan it and generate one file. So don't send me quite a few different files. I cannot guarantee I grade all of them, or I lost one page. So that's really, something you really need to know as a college student. So if you don't really know how to generate one file, you could easily search online how to combine multiple files to be one file, such as PDF file. And then there's a lot of free online tools. You do not have to install the app. You could just do it online and generate one big file for free. And even you have like some pictures, JPG files generated from your scanner. And I believe everybody know, if you don't want to check online, I believe everybody know how to use Word, Microsoft Word, right? So everybody should have Microsoft Word installed in your computer as a college student. So you can easily copy paste all the images that your scanner gave you, and then you could generate one Word document easily, right? So that doesn't take a lot of time, but that's one part required for your final exam submission. I give you the whole day. That includes your work, including your working time, including download the file and submit the file. And don't try to submit the file by the last minute, because everybody want to do the same thing and your Blackboard might crash or your internet might get slow. So you really want to leave yourself enough time to do all those things, okay? So there's no excuse about, I had a technical issue, not able to submit my final exam, can I get an extension? The answer has to be no, because I cannot do that for everybody. And it's not fair for me to do it for one person only or a few students only. So I hope you all understand this, okay? So that's something I have to say before the final exam. So for the midterm, you know, I gave you like a lot of time, and some of you had this issue, that issue. You submit quite a few files, and some of you generated, you know, rotated picture, you know, the picture with distortion, all different things. And but that's okay, you know, for final exam, stop doing that, please. So make sure you respect this class to get your credit, okay? So for students who need extra time, such as accommodation, you know, for students need accommodation such as extra time, you need to contact me before the final week. You need to contact me before the final week to set up this. I believe, and I actually you know, asked the Access Center again about this question, and they clearly told me it's the student's responsibility to ask for extra time. If they do need the extra time, then if you did if you did register with Access Center, so I should have already got your letter, and it's your responsibility to make sure I got the letter, to make sure you want extra time for your final exam. So if that's the case, please contact me early as possible. So I will send you a separate exam, so you could have a start time early than that day. You could have a start time early than that day. However, everybody needs to submit the final exam. Everybody needs to submit the final exam by the end of May the 13th. And there may be some question designed using your personal information, such as your name or your 900 number. So even you might have different problems, to be honest, but even you have exactly the same problem, for some questions you may have a different answer. For some questions you may have different answer. So if I figure out, if I find students, for example, 2 students, they have exactly the same wrong answer, then both of them will be considered as cheating, and they will get 0 at the same time, no matter who copied who. So they will both get 0. And also, if someone reported cheating, to me. So even this is open book, open note, open internet exam, I do not want any of you cooperate with each other. And I assume no one cooperate with the other students, because we are all at home separately. So you should work on your own exam by yourself, and you should not share your answer with anyone. You should not share your answer with anyone, okay? If I find someone shared his or her answer with other students or public that post that to public locations such as online or social media, then that student will be considered as cheating, and everybody use that answer will be considered as cheating. So all of them will get 0. All of them will get 0. And this will be reported to university level, and you might eventually fail this class. So I don't want to say that more, but I don't want to emphasize more, but this is really serious, okay? So work on your own, work on the exam by your own. If you have question, contact me, okay? Don't contact anybody, but contact me. And if you contact someone, you know, you never know, the student might report you. And if you got reported, then you will get 0. So so this is the general requirement for the final exam. And if you click on this folder, then you will see the final exam review list. So this is a Word document. I will go through later. And then you can first download this Word document and print out the quiz in the lab you had before, and you could start your review process for final exam. So this list actually include all the topics that I could cover in the final exam. So there are many topics listed in this list, but you know, comparing with everything we have in the slides, this is really a small subset. So I hope to reduce the workload of everyone for a final exam review. So that's the purpose I corrected this list. But I want to make sure you know that, so the final exam is not an exam that covers everything in this list. So I only pick a few topics from this list. So not all the topics covered in this list will be on your final exam, okay? However, all the problems on your final exam have to come from this list. So all the problems on your final exam, they have to come from this list. So if there is a topic which is not on this list, then you don't need to worry it for your final exam. Okay, so in case some of you don't know who is book 2, who is book 3, so I actually uploaded all the PDF at the beginning of the semester. However, I listed the book name here. So for each topic, I gave you where you should look it up. So which slide you should check, and which book, which chapter you want to check. If you're not really good or familiar with certain topic, then you can use this list to, you know, as a guidance for your quick review, and this will be more efficient to start your review. Okay, so computer abstraction. So this is actually multiple layer of the computer, such as the high-level program, how it will be eventually translated to the binary code. And then we will have the binary code, machine code implemented, executed by the CPU circuit, right? So the CPU circuit, of course, is made by basic logic. So from the top layer to the bottom layer, this is actually, you know, a general structure of your CS 2400 and 1400. So why we have to learn assembly code, why we have to learn instruction, because we want to, why we have to learn digital circuit in your 1400, because we want to make the whole abstraction of a computer from the top layer to the bottom layer, okay? So not everything I listed here will be covered in your final exam, but you know, I listed the most important topics for this class. So the instruction set architecture, what is instruction set architecture? Then you have to know that. And we use MIPS instruction, of course, for the whole semester, right? So floating point number, what is floating point number? So we had briefly introduced the floating point number. This might not be on your final exam, but I listed it because this is really important for long-term study, CS study, okay? So sign extension, if you have a negative number, for example, and what is negative number represented by 2's complement? And then if you have a 16-bit 2's complement, 16-bit negative number, then of course, then we want to make the sign extension, then you want to duplicate the 1, not the 0, okay? So benchmark, what is benchmark? How to evaluate the CPU performance. And we had a quiz for CPU performance. So I highlight, or not highlight, use both for all the important topics and what you want to review. So the other part, like they are like general. So the quiz, the lab, the midterm highlighted, that actually you know, points you to the most important topics. So you have like a little bit higher priority if you see something highlighted in this list. So for example, quiz 1 includes the benchmark CPI performance calculation. There's 2 different equations for performance, CPU performance calculation. And then what kind of example I should expect, such as quiz 1, such as midterm problems you had for the performance calculation. And speed up, how to calculate the speed up of a processor. So you use the longer time divided by the shorter time, right? So there are a lot of other examples, of course, but the first priority will be your quiz and the midterm. So the MIPS register R and I and J type instruction, there are 3 different types of instruction, the binary representation for the instructions, and you had a problem in your midterm about that kind of problem, right? So fill up fill in the field value, which is decimal value, and the binary value for a given instruction, So basic steps of MIPS instruction execution. So how a high-level code could be implemented. Eventually, then you have to translate the high-level code to the machine code to the binary code. So the slide 3 has a lot of discussion about this. However, we actually had one problem in your midterm talk about this as well. So I didn't highlight this, but I want you to know this is of course important in long term. So for your CS study, So MIPS arithmetic, data transfer, conditional branch. So those different tabs, those are actually different types of instructions. However, so how I can test all those instructions, of course, not all of you and everybody, so including me, we do not know, we do not memorize all the different instructions. There's many different instructions. However, by for a final exam, the only way I can test you about using those instructions could be similar problems you did in your lab 1, lab 2, lab 3, such as write a for loop, such as write a if-else condition, such as print out something. So you will have both the programming assembly code problem in your final exam, including general answer problems, such as calculate the performance of the CPU. So you have both different types of problems, so including the assembly coding and including the assembly coding and the general concept problem. So same as the midterm. So how can I test the assembly coding? So you will expect similar problems such as your lab 1, 2, 3, 4. So such as your lab 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So the MIPS memory map, including text and data segment. So we have the third lab. Using different. So the first 2 labs are a little bit easy, and the third lab we started to use like print out certain data and check certain data with the memory data. So you have to be able to know how to use the data segment in order to do that. So at least the lab 3 here, so you have a big array stored somewhere and you want to check the different elements inside of the array, for example. So addressing mode, direct addressing, indirect addressing, absolute addressing. So we have introduced that in the slide. Sub procedure is really important, and not everybody did a good job in the lab 4, and this is always one of the most challenging topic for 2400, but it is also really important. So I hope everybody know how to write sub procedure using assembly code, and this might be on your final exam. Okay, I cannot emphasize more. So I really love this because it is a really important topic, and by testing you how to write a sub procedure in assembly code, I could know actually did you really understand the structure of MIPS processor. So this is a really challenging and important topic. So pipeline speed up. So we have spent a lot of time in pipeline processor, and then we introduced different types of hazards, including control hazard, branching hazard is control hazard, including data hazard and branching hazard, And in the different approaches we have introduced to solve the different hazards, if you still remember, so we could do forwarding, code reordering, instruction reordering to solve the data hazards. And we could do branch prediction. If we have a branching hazard, right? So branch prediction, there's a lot of different types of branch prediction. There's one problem in your midterm asking you to calculate the CPI affected by the branch penalty. And there's also some other examples in the slide. Such as the 1-bit prediction, 2-bit prediction. So the 2 example in slide 6 about 1-bit prediction, 2-bit prediction will be on your final exam as well, okay? Because that's really important example I could test you to know if you really understand branch prediction. And branch prediction is a really advanced technique to implement branching pipeline processor, to implement the pipeline processor. So I hope everybody pay attention here. The two examples in your slides, 1-bit prediction, 2-bit prediction, and the midterm example you had for branch prediction. So that's all of them are really, really important. And this can be the second most confusing concept and really challenging problem in your final exam. Okay, so cache design. The cache design itself can be really broad, but we have focused on direct map cache and NV set associative cache. So you had a lab. So actually not lab. I have to update this. So I believe, is it a quiz? I believe it is a quiz. Yes. So you had quiz 2. It had quiz 2 designed for cache problem, for the cache topic. And then I really want you to review that quiz, and check the examples we talked through in the video for the cache design. So this is really important. You will have that in your final exam. And multiple level cache performance. This is, I mean, in general, this is an important concept, but you will not have that in your final exam. So as for cache problem, I will prefer to test you similar problem as the quiz. Virtual memory, this is what we went through last time. And I believe in last week's video. So virtual memory, in last week video, I did highlight one video. So I tried my best to make those videos short, and then you could save some time to watch only, select the most important video to watch. So you check that video out, And I did actually put the name of that video, say final exam example. So you should know what kind of problem you are expecting, okay? So, and I will have one more video for week 15, which is this week. So I will have one more video. The last video I will upload will be talking about multiple level parallelism technique. So, but I could only test you general terminologies in your final exam, because this is the last week video, so you don't have a lot of time to, do different things. But there may be some important terminology tested in your final exam. So such as if I ask you what is multi-threading, and you may want to answer that. And even you don't know that, you can easily check it up, right? Because you can find it in the slide, you can find it online. It is open book, open computer, open internet. So I will talk about multiple parallelism, different parallelism technique. As we went through the whole semester, we talk about pipeline processor, we talk about branching, different branch prediction, different technique, forwarding, code reordering. We have talked about assembly code, MIPS instructions. So we have spent a lot of time to understand the general structure, the basic structure of a high performance computer. However, we didn't actually spend a lot of time to talk about some more advanced parallelism technique for high performance computing, such as cluster, such as superscalar, multi-threading. So those things are actually some general concepts we need to cover for the last slide, of the whole semester. And that's the last thing I plan to cover for the whole semester. So number 16 will be, so the last quiz, it is kind of like a little bit separate compared with all the other topics, because this is actually required in 2400 syllabus. So I have to add this topic. So it is error detection, error correction code, such as parity check, Hamming code, 7-4 Hamming code. So this is what I covered. In the previous week, not week 14, week 13, I believe, in those videos. And I give you a quiz on that topic. So as I gave you a quiz on that topic, so that actually means this is required for this class, okay? So the quiz problem are pretty straightforward, but that is also required for the final exam. So I put coding assignments here, just want to make sure everybody know we have 4 labs, and the only way I can test you the instruction for MIPS is similar problems as the labs, So don't take, there's no other type of problem I can generate totally new. So they will be similar to the lab. If I give you assembly coding problem, it will be similar to the lab. So this line is just trying to emphasize you will have assembly coding problem in your final exam. Okay, so this is all you need to know for your final exam. And start early, get prepared. And I feel happy that I was able to cover all the problems, all the topics I originally planned to talk about for the whole semester. So even we had, some hard time to transition online. So so everybody, experienced something really hard for this semester. It is a really special semester, but I'm happy to tell you that I actually covered everything I planned to cover. So you didn't lose any knowledge. Technically, you should not lose any knowledge from 2400. And I hope you all the best in your study for future computer science classes. And I hope this class could benefit you in long term. All right, I will stop here for this video. You will have one more video coming up for week 15, and then you will be ready to go for your final exam. Good luck for your final.